Alright, this is the RX 6800 XT, and we're testing out at 4K first, then we'll also do 1440p. We'll also do some resolution scaling. And this is also with Smart Access Memory on. I already did a video testing it, and I got like a 15% performance boost at 4K high settings using SAM. Now, look at the high versus the extreme. High was the recommended settings, but what's interesting to note here is that we actually do get playable frame rates at the extreme settings. So if you're just looking for above 60 FPS and you don't need that super high refresh rate, extreme's usable, although dropping it down to ultra does look like it gets us some better frame rates. Now, if you stay tuned till the end of the 4K section, I'll give you the actual final benchmark results. We're looking at some visual side-by-sides here for now. Dropping down to medium, I just really don't see is necessary here on this graphics card, because the high settings look great and perform great, and while the 4K medium settings are performing a bit better, it's not that much better. So I definitely stick to the high settings, and just for the sake of completion, let's test out low settings. You can get some crazy good frame rates here, but I just really don't see the point on this graphics card. But hey, if you want to compare what 4K high and 4K low look like here, I mean, I will say the low settings still look pretty good. So what we're going to look at now is, okay, what if we want to use extreme settings, and instead of turning down from extreme, what if we use resolution scaling? Now, this is the ultra quality resolution scaling, which you can see up against the extreme native. And I think it does look really good. I can tell it's on, but it does look really good. But I also don't think the frame rate boost that we're getting here is that big. So let's drop down to the quality settings to try to get a better frame rate boost. And it is a better frame rate boost, but I've got to say, it's still not that crazy big. And the quality setting is starting to get noticeable, at least on my giant 48-inch 4K monitor. On a smaller monitor, where your pixel density is higher, you might not notice it as much. Now, just to see what kind of bump we can get, let's turn it down to the balanced resolution scaling. And now we're getting what I would consider a more noticeable big performance uplift, but I'm also much more able to pick out the visual difference of the two, especially on my large screen. So I'm not sure I would use the resolution scaling in this game. It looks pretty good at ultra quality and quality, but let's take a look at the final benchmark results. So this is 4K Extreme at native. Now here's 4K Extreme with the ultra quality. It's a performance boost, but it's not that crazy big. Going down to quality only gets us up to 87 here, and then going down to balanced gets us to 91. But let's compare that to just dropping to ultra settings, which was 89. So if we just go down to ultra instead of extreme, I think that's what I would choose. Now going down to high is probably what I'll actually play the game at, because 116 FPS. Medium, again, is better, but I don't think it's really necessary. And low, we're just cruising at 154, but I wouldn't really use it. Let's drop down to 1440p. So here's 1440p at the extreme settings, and let's put it up against the high settings. So these are probably actually the two I would use, is either extreme because, hey, we can do it just fine, or maybe the high settings if I want to be consistently around 120, 144 hertz, which is where a lot of people's monitors limits would be at. Now, we could actually go with the argument that ultra would be a better choice here. So let's compare extreme to ultra. You do get a bit of a performance boost. Now, once again, I will give you the final actual benchmark results at the end here after we look at some of these visual comparisons. So ultra here, notice that in some scenes we are still up around 144, but in the more demanding scenes it does drop quite a bit. So I don't know, I think any of those are usable. Now dropping down to medium, our frame rates are crazy good here. So if you really want to max out like a 165 hertz monitor, I mean, maybe this is the way that you go. But notice the 1440p extreme settings, honestly, the frame rate's good enough that that's probably the choice that I would make here, is either extreme or maybe high, if you just really want to be at that high refresh rate. Now, let's test out low just, again, for the sake of completion. I guess if you really want to be over 200 FPS, you can do it at least, but I don't really see the point. Let's look at the final actual benchmark numbers for better comparison. So here we go. With the extreme settings at 95, ultra settings at 115, and dropping to high gets us to 151 FPS average, which is crazy. Now this is high with the ultra quality resolution scaling, gets you up to 160, and then medium settings 164, and low settings 194. Overall, this GPU can crush this game.